Have you ever felt a presence when you're all alone? A fleeting shadow in the corner of your eye, a sudden cold spot in a warm room. For most of us, it's just our imagination playing tricks. But for Rohan, it became a terrifying reality that changed his life forever. This is the story of the white shadow that stood at his door. Rohan had just moved into an old colonial-era house in a quiet, forgotten corner of the city. He was a writer, and the house, with its rustic charm and solitude, seemed like the perfect place to finish his novel. The rent was unbelievably cheap, and the landlord, a nervous-looking man, seemed all too eager to hand over the keys and leave. Rohan didn't think much of it at the time. He was just excited about his new home. The first few weeks were peaceful. The rhythmic clacking of his keyboard filled the high-ceilinged rooms, and the scent of old wood and fresh coffee was his constant companion. But then, subtle things started to happen. A book would fall from a shelf for no reason. Doors he was sure he had closed would be found slightly ajar. He'd hear faint whispers, like the rustling of silk, just on the edge of his hearing. He dismissed it all as the quirks of an old house. Old houses creak, settle, and make strange noises. It was perfectly normal. One rainy evening, Rohan was working late, lost in his story. A sudden clap of thunder made the whole house shudder. The power went out, plunging him into complete darkness. He fumbled for his phone, its flashlight cutting a nervous beam through the dark. As he stood up, he felt a sudden, bone-chilling cold. It was then that he saw it. Standing in the doorway of his study was a figure. It was tall and slender, draped in what looked like a flowing white sari. He couldn't see a face, just a vague, blurry outline against the deeper black of the hallway. It was completely still, a silent, white silhouette. His heart hammered against his ribs. He blinked, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him, but when he opened them, it was still there, the white shadow at the door. He couldn't move, couldn't scream. He was paralyzed by a fear so profound it felt like ice water flooding his veins. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, watching it. He felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow emanating from it, a deep, ancient sadness that seemed to seep into the very walls. The seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the power flickered back on. The figure was gone. Rohan spent the rest of the night huddled in a corner, wide awake, lights blazing. The next day, he tried to convince himself it was a dream, a hallucination brought on by stress and the storm. But the feeling of that chilling presence lingered. He started doing some research. He talked to the oldest residents in the neighborhood and pieced together a tragic story. Decades ago, a young woman named Anjali had lived in that house. She was deeply in love and was supposed to be married. On her wedding day, she waited for her groom, dressed in a beautiful white sari. But he never came. Heartbroken and shamed, she waited by the door, day after day, until she eventually faded away, her spirit forever tied to her moment of deepest sorrow. Rohan realized the white shadow wasn't a malevolent entity. It was the heartbroken spirit of Anjali, eternally waiting. The whispers were her sighs, the cold spots were her tears. He wasn't in danger. He was sharing his home with a ghost trapped in a loop of grief. Knowing her story changed everything. He started talking to her, telling her she could be at peace, that she didn't have to wait anymore. One evening, as he stood by the door, he said, "Anjali, he's not coming. It's time to rest." A gentle breeze swept through the room, and for a fleeting moment he saw the white shadow again. But this time it seemed to nod before slowly dissolving into a soft, warm light. He never saw the white shadow at the door again. The house felt different, lighter. The oppressive sadness was gone, replaced by a sense of calm. Rohan finished his novel, but it wasn't the book he started, it was the story of Anjali. Sometimes the ghosts of the past aren't there to haunt us, but to tell us a story we need to hear. Thanks for watching. If you have a story of your own, share it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more unexplained tales.